my goodness, it's happening. Welcome to Cocktails in the War Room. I am your host, Mistress Carrie. Welcome to my war room and welcome to episode number 200. I cannot believe we made it to episode 200. This all started back on March 14th of 2020. As you'll remember, the first night, just a handheld cell phone and just a way to keep ourselves occupied and to kind of figure out what the hell was going on. We got together 80 nights in a row in this room in my house that I call the War Room, which has got all of my military stuff in it, but it's also where the bar is. And it's turned into what it is now, 200 episodes later. And as you can hear her, I'm not alone. I have a couple guests. First of all, I have the annoying barking guest, right, Wednesday? Come and say hi to everybody. Come here. Say hi to everybody. There you are. Wednesday, the goth pug, has been joining me through this whole thing. She's my co-host. She is my Ed McMahon. She is my Garth to my Wayne. And she's not the only guest that I'm going to have in the War Room tonight. And she's not the only furry four-legged guest I'm going to have in the War Room tonight. Because as I've been promising you for a really long time, we're able to bring guests into the War Room. And we do it from time to time. And since we started the War Room and since Mike Shue became my first guest in here, over and over again, people have said, we want this one person to be a guest on the show. And she was always getting up too early in the morning. And so we joked that we would have a pajama party, which is why I wore my Halloween glow-in-the-dark skeleton pajamas for her. It's taken me 200 episodes. And I am finally able to say that I have got my guest, Danielle!
Hello!
How are you?
Furry friend.
How are you? Oh my God, what is going on?
Pure chaos. The same thing that's all right. Can we not? She's over here. This is my life every day.
So, first of all,
purple cat pajamas for you.
You wore purple cat pajamas to our pajama party. Oh my God. Heinz says hello. Carol says what's up. Christine says, woohoo, number 200. Chris is joining us. Lisa's here. Joe, Jonathan, Melissa, Tracy, Penny's here. Marcy. You know what? Cheers to you, my darling. Cheers to 200 episodes of the War Room. Normally, you can tell what I'm drinking by the glass. I busted out the good stuff tonight.
I feel bougie.
I got a little bougie tonight because it's 200 episodes.
It is. And you know what, Carrie? That's like, you should be so accomplished and proud of that because, you know, granted, you've had an amazing radio career, but to do 200 episodes of something like this and just have the following that you have is so unbelievably impressive. And like, kudos to you, girlfriend.
Thank you. Well, look, we can go back to WAF going on. Guys, if you, hold on, Danielle can't see it. There was a typo on the screen. Typos on the show mean you have to drink a social because it's my screw up. So we can go all the way back to the end of WAF. You had already gone to WEEI and we're doing mornings down there. And when AAF went off the air, none of us knew what was going to happen. I know. None of us knew what was going to happen. And then right after COVID hit.
Yeah.
And now we're all locked in our houses. You were locked in the house doing radio remote.
Yeah, which was great, by the way. Awesome.
And
because you know what, it was easy to cut you off for one second. It was easy because like the first 7 years of my career on the morning show, I worked in a different building for a good chunk of it. So Greg and I already had that kind of listening expectation rapport, you know, and then now we had the technology to actually have visible stuff, with Zoom going. So it definitely made it easier. But yeah, being home was glorious.
So you were doing metro traffic at the beginning and you were doing that remote, which is why you weren't in the same studio. Then you got hired as part of the morning show. And when COVID hit, the music industry, the radio industry was left scrambling and nobody knew what to do. Yeah. And you remember Kaiser, who was our imaging guy at WAF. He was the one that, and I want to give him credit, he was the one that said, I know you've been posting a lot on social media, but maybe you should go like live on Instagram or live on Facebook or something and let everybody know how you're doing because it was like 3 weeks since we had gone off the air.
Right.
And I was like, all right, I'll go live and see what happens and see if anybody shows up. And I was like, hey, I'm going to go get a cocktail, have it in my war room, join me at 8:30. This was not a planned thing to like start a video show, to bring guests in, to make my dog a freaking bougie co-host star with an attitude begging for cookies. This was not part of the plan. And I couldn't believe, say hi, Wednesday. Say hi.
Hi, Bubba.
I couldn't believe how many people wanted to join in.
Yeah.
And we had always gone Facebook Live, Instagram Live, all of that from the radio stations and all of that stuff. But it showed me that I wasn't the only one that was lost, that felt isolated, that was scared and uncertain about what the world was going to be like. It was changing every day. We're living in a time at that time when they were canceling St. Patrick's Day in Southie, and Tom Brady was announcing that he was leaving. And everybody was like, are we even safe to leave the house? And so all of a sudden, and you had been to the house before, so it was like, oh yeah, anybody that had come to the house knew about the war room.
Right.
And now everybody knows about the war room. Because anybody that comes on the show now, they're like, oh, cocktails in the war room. And it's, people think that this is where I do the podcast. But that's MCHQ. This is really where the bar is in the house, which is why it's echoey as hell in here.
Yeah.
Because like your house, like it's just your living room. It's like, right, Wednesday? Say hi to Danielle.
Hi, baby. How you doing?
She didn't want to wear her pajamas. I tried to put them on her, and she was like, fuck you, Ma.
She's like, how about no?
So
how about
everybody knows what happened with me, obviously, that we had cocktails in the war room, and then we launched the podcast and the website, and then I got back on the radio at Westwood One and the Pike, and you have been all over the place doing so much stuff that you ended up on country radio. Like,
I know.
Tell everybody the story for anybody that hasn't been able to keep track of you and your adventures.
So we'll go back to like leaving, EEI. Like, they moved Greg and I over, which, if AAF hadn't gone away, I would have worked with Greg forever, as long as he would have had me, because we had great chemistry. I love doing the morning show with him. As much as LB drove me nuts sometimes, he was great too. He says hi. I talked to him earlier. He's doing great. Sports wasn't my thing. Like, I'm a sports fan and that I cheer for our local teams, but I don't want to talk about contracts. It wasn't interesting to me. So it felt, as more and more time went on, I was just like, this isn't what I want to be doing. And I also felt like there were other people that would have stepped into that role and done a really good job that would have been into sports. Like Courtney, she's crushing it. She's doing great and she's into sports. So I feel like that's a great fit for her because she also does really well with the other elements of the morning show. So for me, I was kind of like, all right, well, time for me to go try a few other things. And I had a few things in the back of my mind that I wanted to do. And then very quickly I was like, I don't think I actually want to flesh any of these things out. Like, obviously I was really into plants during the pandemic. Ryan and I were going to start a business, but the plant market became so saturated that it was just like you couldn't even compete and it wasn't worth it. And
everybody was trying to find a job they could do from home.
Exactly.
Doing something that they love. So everybody started looking around going,
yeah, what can I do?
I was like, can I start making my tomato sauce and like selling my homemade tomato sauce from my kitchen?
Yeah. I mean, if I could have started peddling kittens for profit, Bella, leave it. I would have done. She likes to steal the little cans of wet cat food. We call them snacky cans, and she'll take them into the other room and like crunch through the metal and eat the wet food.
The cat eats through the cans?
The dog.
Oh, the dog. Oh.
So I'm like, no snacky cans for you. So anyway, so I started doing a few different things and I really just kind of needed a break from everything. And I was very fortunate that I was financially secure that I could do that. Because a lot of people can't just walk away from their job and be like, I'm going to go try something new and take a break.
Hey, look, when you and I talked, I was like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Because being out here without an anchor is stressful.
It's scary.
And I was like, I'm already floating in this pool. I love you. Are you sure you want to jump in here with me?
Right. And it worked out okay. And, I kind of took a break and I was able to like try different things. And I invested in a lot of personal development. I took a lot of different classes. The travel thing came up fairly quickly. So I had gone on a trip to Iceland last year with, I work with a company called Trova Trip that basically runs trips for influencers and people that have a following. They schedule all the itineraries and whatnot. And I was like, I have enough people that would want to travel with me that I could do this. So this year I had a trip to Italy. We did Rome and Tuscany, and I had a trip to Iceland, and I had 2 amazing groups of people. Like, I cannot say enough about how amazing everyone was. And it was all listeners and a few friends of mine.
So that's what I was going to ask you. So people can just buy into these trips.
Yeah.
And go with you and experience all of the stuff that they see you posting about on Instagram.
Correct. Yeah. And it's great for solo travelers too, because a lot of people don't have either, friends or the people that have the availability, their finances or whatever to travel with them. So, my whole thing was like, I want to create a space that is you feel comfortable in and be like, hey, come with me. Even if you're alone, it's cool. So I'm actually running a trip to the Amalfi Coast in April. Hi, Tabby.
Look at you.
Hey, Debbie cat. Cheesy baby. That's going to be like 2/3 of the people from my Italy trip this year, and then like half of my Iceland trip is coming. So my 2 trips are merging, and I'm like, wow, what a cool thing that these people had so much fun with me that now they want to come on another trip, and I get to introduce them all together.
This is the greatest thing ever.
This is. Hold on, wait a minute, get Bella. Full top. There's nothing in it, but she brings over a full container.
Wait, can you, before you talk about the Amalfi Coast some more, can you tell me how many mammals are running around your house right now?
No, we don't disclose numbers. Ever. I have 3 dogs and a mess of cats and some foster kittens. That's as much as I'll tell you.
Oh, my God.
It's very busy. Very busy in here.
I have one 18.5-pound pug, and she's the biggest pain in my ass. Like right now, she just...
Hey, get out. Get over here. Come on. Slow resistance.
Yeah, anybody that's watching the show right now is like, this is insanity. This is what's going on. Yeah, you've got cats and dogs and barking and Tupperware things. Aww.
My big girl.
Yeah, you need a bigger pug cam than what I have right now. Yeah.
So the travel thing was a ton of fun, and I also got to do some leisure trips too. I went to Mount Shasta in Northern California to do a night sky photography trip with a guy by the name of Brad Goldpaint, who's an incredible photographer, and he does workshops like all over the U.S. In dark sky locations. And photography, as you well know, the radio business, you can't always take vacation when you want for a variety of different reasons. So the schedule was a little restrictive. So now that I had this kind of open-ended path in front of me, I'm like, I should bang out these trips while I can, while I have the time and the availability in case, I go back to a conventional job at some point or whatever. So I did that workshop. I'm actually going back to Iceland in March with a National Geographic photographer for 10 days to do night sky photography with the Northern Lights.
First of all, that's on my bucket list to see the Northern Lights because I've always wanted to see them. Have you seen them yet?
I have not because I haven't been there when it's been timely.
Oh, okay.
So I've only gone in the summer, and I love Iceland so much.
Well, I've seen you post about it a bunch and you rave about how amazing it is. How is the food?
It's very good and very clean and very fresh. If you don't like fish and lamb, it can be a little tricky. They do have vegetarian and vegan options, but you're mostly getting a lot of like dense, meaty white fish, like your cods, kind of that type of fish. And I love that stuff. I eat, mostly like fish and vegetables. So that works out beautifully for me. And they don't put any crap in their food. Like they don't process it. So everything is very clean. The people are super nice. There's no crowd. Even if you're in Reykjavik when it's busy, there's really not like crowds per se. Bella. We got a box of croutons that we opened up. So now we're gonna let her
Wednesday.
Get into that.
Come over here. She's begging for cookies that don't exist right now.
It's the Tuesday night dog shit show.
Yeah, hold up. Come here and get the ducking stingray. Come here.
Oh, you're not the croutons over here? That's great.
Come on, over here. Come get the ducking stingray.
I love that.
Yeah, there's a whole glossary of terms here in the War Room now because there's too many inside jokes for people.
Right.
So
you need like a guide.
Yeah, they're in the blog at mistresscarrie.com. There's literally a whole glossary, and the ducking stingray is one of them.
Love it. Hello, ducking stingray.
So you're going to the Amalfi Coast, and then where else are you going? Because I'm starting to think about wanting to go travel with Danielle now.
Yeah. I'm not sure yet. I'm putting that together. Like Greece was a really popular option, but because we do like mostly island trips with this company, it's hard for them to accommodate a lot of large groups because they just don't have the space, like the
Right.
restaurants and things like that. I was supposed to have a trip to Vietnam in December, but I wound up canceling that because it was a slow sign up and then the airfare started going bananas. I would like to do like a leisure trip to Bali. But again, you have to get people that are really, I mean, it's a haul, you know, it's going to take you a day plus to get over there. So you have to really have people that are committed to doing that. So I'm kind of doing that for now. And then also like looking at, you know, I think I'll probably do another Italy trip in the fall because it's an easy sell. People want to go to Italy and it's a beautiful place. Exactly.
I just want to eat everything and drink all the wine.
Yeah. And the woman that I'm working with, Federica, who was our guide on my first trip, is going to be guiding this next trip. And she's been guiding for like, I don't know, 30 plus years. And she knows all the people and the hot spots and she's just incredible. So I'm psyched to be working with her again. So that's kind of, you know, where I am. And then as people are like, oh, I would like to do this. I might do a trip to Ireland because that seems to be pretty popular as well. And I've never been to Ireland, so I'm kind of excited about.
And that's a pretty easy flight from the East Coast. Like depending on where you've got people coming from, it's like, you know, I have so many friends on the West Coast and they're like, what do you mean you've never been to Hawaii?
Right.
And I'm like, have you been to London? Because it's the same distance.
Exactly. Right. And like the good thing is most of the people that are coming on my trips are either friends or listeners. So most people are coming from this area anyway. So it's easy because most of us fly together, which is great. So anyway, so back in the spring, I got a phone call from Mary Mena, who runs Beasley Media. And she and I had, you know, kind of communicated back and forth very loosely over the years, like, hey, how are you? We should have lunch sometime. And she said, I have a proposition for you. One of my hosts is going out on maternity leave. I would like for you, if you're interested, to fill in for her. And it turned out that it was Ayla Brown, which was a very full circle moment for me because, of course, Ayla's dad, Scott, was on with, you know, on the Hillman Morning Show with Greg.
Well, Ayla used to come and sing at Christmas time down at Ernie's place.
Exactly. So it was like, wow, I'm like, this is kind of a weird full circle career moment. So I kind of hemmed and hawed and I'm like, do I want to do this? Do I want to get back up at 3:00 in the morning? Do I want to get back? But I love doing radio. Like I love radio and I especially love morning radio. I love banter. I love, you know, firing things off with other people.
I don't know how you get up that early in the morning. I really don't.
Once I'm up, I'm up. Like, I don't think I could ever do another day part if I went back to radio because I can't break up my day in the middle and I can't do traffic. So like the worst traffic I have now is coming home from Dorchester where I have to deal with like 2 exits on the expressway and I want to pull my hair out. And we're moving the studios to Waltham. So that's going to suck going up.
You would have hated my commute for 20 years.
Absolutely not. Dude, I can barely get out to see you for like a visit, let alone a commute to work. Like, no. I'm like,
people would always be like, why is Carrie so angry? And it's like,
I'm like, I know why.
Because she just sat in the car for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And wants to kill everyone. And she was drinking a large iced coffee along the way. So not only is she hyper, but she has to pee and she's about to shit her pants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good morning. So I was like, all right, I'm like, let me do this. And then of course, like, you know, when I posted about it, everybody was psyched that I was going to be back on the radio. And then I get the natural subsequent question is, do you even listen to country? And I'm like, listen, just because all I ever post about is metal doesn't mean I don't like country. Because I do love country, but you know, shows wise, I tend
That's where you and I are different, is that you've always listened to everything. And for me, I was always like, yeah, not so much. Like,
I mean, I go from metal to yacht rock to country to, you know, I mean, interpretive jazz. I don't know. So I have a very eclectic taste, but you know, I'm already tired for like what's coming up in 2 weeks, like between Seven Dust, Lamb of God and Kill Switch, Miss May I, like so many shows coming up in like 10 days. I'm like, oh my God, I need a nap already.
Shinedown and Jelly Roll are going to be at the Xfinity next Tuesday, which is why the War Room is not going to be open for business next Tuesday because I'm going to be at Shinedown. Yeah,
that's
probably inebriated.
That's all right, though. It's part of the gig, you know?
Yeah, well, that's why I work in the afternoons so that I don't have to get up early in the morning. Yeah.
Exactly, which is a nice thing.
So you're covering right now.
Covering right now through like, I think almost the end of October. Wow. And it's been a blast. Like it's a very, you know, I mean, I'm coming from 4 hours of talk to a 3.5 hour show with music, which is like kind of wild. And like, you know, the problem I'm running into is that we run out of time because I'm like, I have a lot more I could say on whatever topic we're talking about. But, you know, we're up against the clock, as they say, and we have to go to break.
It is weird doing radio with music because you never had to do it, and it's what I've always done. So other than doing like the War Room where if I don't have a guest, I'm just talking the whole time, but
right.
I'm used to being able to incorporate the music into everything because I've always had it there.
Yeah. For me, it's like, we only have 3 minutes to talk. That's weird.
And I'm not used to having somebody to talk to.
I know, exactly. So it's like a very different thing. It's such a different dynamic. Jonathan, who hosts the show, also came from a talk background. So it's very easy for us to kind of like go down these little rabbit holes. And Jim, who produces, is freaking amazing. He's been doing radio forever. So it's, for my re-entry back into things, I don't think I could have asked for a better scenario because it's just been like super fun and lighthearted and just really enjoyable. And like, we talk about a ton of different stuff and it's just fun and funny and like, that's it. And I'm like, okay, because at first I was on the fence. I was like, do I really want to do this? But now that I'm into it and having so much fun, I'm glad that I did. And like, people I haven't talked to in 5-10 years are coming out of the woodwork texting me like, hey, I hope this is still your number, but I caught you on Country 102.5 the other day. You guys sound great. Love how the show sounds. Like, you got a new fan, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, okay, good. Like, thanks for coming over, guys. But it's been great.
And then you've been running your nonprofit at the same time because Blues Ridge is still open for business.
Still very open for business as we have lots of everybody over here running around and doing, kitten rescue and all the things. And it's just like, I'm so thankful that I have amazing vet partners that like, treat me so well and they get me in when I need something. Like I just had Bella, really? I just had an emergency room visit. Like she's fully capable. The problem is there's a deli container upside down with croutons under it. So now she's dragging it across the floor to get to the croutons when she perfectly well could flip this thing over. Do you need assistance? Okay. Anyway, so, thankfully, I have that support in Blues Bridge and like everyone that donates is super generous, which is great. But it's like, man, I'm like, people don't realize, people balk at things like a $300 or $400 adoption fee for a kitten. And it's like, dude, I'm tanking out at like $700 minimum between the vaccinations, the food, the litter, the testing, the blood work, the spays, the neuters, the microchips. It's all super expensive, but thankfully we've been able to continue to do a lot of really good work with it and help out, a lot of animals that have been in need and place them in good homes. Can we not do this? Excuse me for 1 second. I'm just going to flip this for her.
This is the greatest thing ever. Oh my God. Oh, Matthew says big 200. Jen says miss you, Danielle. Let's see.
I love you guys. I miss you all so much.
I know. So I have your handle there for everybody to be able to find you on Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. And I mean, it's not like when people say, oh, I miss you, it's like we haven't gone anywhere.
Right.
It's just we're not in the same place. And like the biggest adjustment for me is that we all used to see each other so often that even though we weren't on the same show, you and I in the hallway together, even when you guys moved to EEI, you and I would still see each other in the building all the time.
Yeah.
We'd have coffee and like be able to catch up and like be at shows together or whatever. And between COVID and just everything else that's happened, it's like, I mean, I work at the same radio station as Mike Shue, and we never see each other because we're either not working in the same building at the same time or our hours are just so different. And it's like, everything just operates so differently. And it's like, you said you talked to LB today, which makes me so happy because having him on the podcast, like people were so curious how he was doing and like legitimately concerned. And there's so much love.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that I think surprised me the most when the radio station was gone. Was it the same thing for you? Is that when you are off the radio, especially in the middle of a pandemic, when everybody's so isolated, I was overwhelmed by the tidal wave of love and support that came my way.
Yeah. Big time. Big time.
Like,
I got a lot of that.
Yeah. And, when you have a job like we did and still do, obviously, in different ways, you get so used to it and you do it for so long that you kind of forget that life could exist without it.
Right.
And then you fear that it won't. Like, I was worried that my last name was from WAAF. Like, hi, I'm Carrie from WAAF.
Right.
And that if from WAF wasn't there anymore. That
who are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, oh, wait, like everybody is still there and there's so much love. Like it was overwhelming and emotionally, like it stopped me in my tracks at how much everybody was a part of everything that we had done over the years.
Yeah. Like when I made the announcement that I was leaving EEI and you know, I mean, it was by the time we kind of figured everything out and like got the timing done with my announcement and everything, like it was kind of right up against it. And I'm like, everyone's going to think I get fired because I'm announcing like 2 days before I leave. But it just happened to be how everything worked out. And like, when I tell you, people came out of the woodwork with messages of just like, you know, like 15 years ago, I was going through a divorce and I wanted to harm myself. And like, you were the only thing that got me through, or the morning show was the only thing that got me through. Or like, I saw you one time in an event. It just happened to be at Country Fest the other day. I saw this adorable girl, Megan, whom I saw, I met her 5 years ago at the Christmas broadcast at one of Ernie's dealerships. And she had a new baby at the time. And we took a picture together. And I was at Kenny Chesney at Gillette a couple of weeks ago. And she grabbed me in the parking lot and she's like, oh my God, Danielle, so good to see you, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I don't know if you remember me, but, and I was like, oh my God. I'm like, how old is your kid now? And she's 5 and she's showing me pictures and I'm like getting choked up. And she sent me the original picture on Instagram. And I'm like, this is such an amazing moment that like this person came out to meet us. And now I'm running into her in a parking lot 5 years later. And she's like giving me a hug. There's a lot going on in here. Really ruining my moment. Thanks, guys. But just, you know, because I think a lot of times what happens, especially in our industry, is you forget that you're talking to people because you're just in a microphone. You're just in a room behind a microphone, either by yourself or with a few other people that you're having a conversation with. And you forget that thousands of people are hearing it.
Which is a really weird thing to say.
Yeah.
That you forget people are listening when you're sitting in a room with a microphone on. Yeah. But like, I mean, how many times have we seen the news where somebody gets caught with a hot mic? Like it's saying something bad, obviously, because when you're around microphones every day, all day, after a while, you forget that they're there. It's like reality show people forgetting that the cameras are there. It does happen after a while.
Yeah. So it was a really amazing thing to have just so many random people reaching out with specific memories of the show over the years. And you know, I mean, I'll be out. I was out in Salem, I don't know, like a week ago, and someone yelled to me like across Pickering Wharf and they're like, Danielle, what's up? Miss AAF. And I'm like, me too, buddy, me too. And just like those little things, it's just, you know, I mean, I joke that I hate people and I don't like small talk, which, you know, I don't like small talk. It's awkward for me.
I appreciate you doing it with me tonight.
Well, that's just my anxiety. This isn't small talk. This is, you know, you and I, we could talk for 3 hours and catch up about a bunch of bullshit. But you know, when people come up and, you know, they'll just throw a little hello or they'll be like, hey, can we take a picture? Like that stuff means so much to me. It's like, dude, you know, I commuted to work with you in your car every day and I didn't even know it, you know, or helped you with something one day, or I answered a question, or I chuckled and made you laugh, like whatever it might be, or I pissed you off. Who knows? Like, could be anything. But just to know that we share so much of our lives with people every single day is such a special, unique thing. And I feel so fortunate to have had a job that paid me to do that. And
people always wondered, like, was it real? Like, was it as crazy behind the scenes? Like, how much of it were we making up? And it's like, it's hard for people to kind of wrap their brains around the fact that, like, that's kind of how it was.
Organic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would just be, I mean, you could go in with a whole day's stuff planned and something random would happen and everything would get thrown out the window and then it became fly by the seat of your pants radio.
Right. Exactly.
You know,
well, I mean, you look at like the national tragedies that we've had, like 9/11. You know, I mean, you were on the air for all of that, you know, the marathon bombings. Like, I remember being at Greg's event at Capitol Grill and like, we had no idea what was going on and trying to call you for a live report from Huntington Ave. Like, there's ambulances lined up. We have no idea what's happening. I just saw Carlos Arredondo, who's covered in blood. Like, you know, these things that have happened that we've been a part of, like people's memories of those incidents, like because they were tuned in, they attach our voices to that, which is such a real thing for me. That's these big historical moments, like somehow in some small way, we're attached that in people's memories. It's like,
yeah. And and we forget that. And then when you have conversations with people, and it happens all the time here in the War Room It happens all the time on social media. I'll dig an old picture out, or it'll be the anniversary and it shows up on people's timelines. Like, you know, Labor Day weekend, I left for Iraq in 2006. I left for Afghanistan in 2011, both on Labor Day weekend. And now my feeds are flooded with these old memories. And it's like, I can't believe it was that long ago, too.
You know, it's wild.
Like 16 years ago, I was in Iraq. What?
I remember when you were like getting ready for that, like the training that you would go through and the stuff that you had to wear to like make sure that you were ready to be over there. Like, and now it's like it's so far in the rearview mirror, but still somehow fresh, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
no, it totally makes sense. Like I can still smell it. You know what I mean? Like I can still imagine, like I know exactly like what the sun felt like and what it smelled like in Kabul. And it was 11 years ago. I crashed my motorcycle 7 years ago this weekend.
That was 7 years ago.
Yes. I know, the nose held up through the reconstruction.
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
We got good docs in Boston. We're lucky that way.
Very lucky.
But it blows my mind. Like when I go back through like the pictures, especially, you know, of like the concerts, the Halloween picture that I dug up that I was posting today of you and I at the Songus at the Halloween party with Sammy Hagar.
I can't believe that was as long as ago as it was. I was like doing the math and I'm like, oh my, like, and it's, you know, you think about touchstone things and I think about like who I was dating at the time, what my life was like, where I was living, what the situations surrounding my life were. And it's just like, shit, what?
I know.
It's crazy.
Christina says, weren't you on the air for 48 straight hours during a snowstorm? Yeah, Mike Shue, LB, he brought the deep fryer in and was making corn dogs.
That place smelled like corn dogs for a week and a half.
I know. They were so good, though. We were so drunk at like 3 a.m.
God, I can't get drunk at the radio station.
Michelle wants to know, is it Michael? No, it's Michelle. How long ago was the bat on the helmet on your way to Laconia? That was...
Oh, God.
2003 or 2004. I killed the bat with my head. Yeah. Like, Keith says, excuse me while I squeeze in between you two on the couch, he says. Walter, get the blueberry cobbler bag of dicks. Yeah, so there's a lot of jokes about blueberry cobbler because of the Afghanistan trip, obviously. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, I try to go back and remember all of the stuff that we did, and it's like I get paralyzed with the flood of like memories and dumb shit.
I know. There was a lot of dumb shit.
Which is why I love the confessions. The last night AAF was on the air because everybody was confessing to all the stuff they stole and all the rules they broke that they couldn't get in trouble for anymore. And I was like, I fucking knew you guys were all doing that shit.
Okay. It was so funny because like we were doing, I forget, I think it was like, was Greg doing his spiel at the time? I don't remember who was talking. It was like later in the evening and I was shithoused. And I had a friend text me and she's like, you sound really drunk on the air. And I was like, I should probably rant. I'm like, no, it's the last night where everyone knows that everyone's hammered. Like, it's not a secret. And it was just like, and like, what a ridiculous night that was. Like people that almost every person that I had ever worked with at AAF came through the hall. I mean, I think there might have been like 1 or 2 people. And then I got to meet all the other people that I never worked with that were legacy people. And it was just like such an amazing thing to see like all the souls that went into like forming such an amazing experience of just a radio station and a listenership and like.
Well, the DJs were the face of it, right? Yeah. And so just like with a band, it's the lead singer that everybody thinks of or whatever. But there were so many people behind the scenes that helped to make all of that stupid shit that we did possible. Whether it was the engineers trying to figure out how to rig microphones where we wanted to go, or the promotions people that were scrambling to get T-shirts made or whatever for some ridiculous last minute idea that we had. Or in some cases, the bosses holding the lawyers at bay so that we could get away with some of the stuff that we got away with. And that was why, like, you know, the last couple days we focused so much on being able to shine a light on all of those people and not to just make it about us, but to give all of those other people that helped to build that place the chance to talk about what it meant to be part of it, and all the bands too.
Yeah.
It still comes up all the time with the interviews I do on the podcast about, how instrumental WAF was in their career trajectory and the memories that they have. And it's like, Joe says you should write a book, a WAF memoir together. Oh, we would have to get like Bob and Zip, like we'd have to go all the way back. We'd have to get Greg and Liz Wilde and John Osterland. Like we would have to get everybody together to like chime in their parts of the story. Oh, yeah. Did you read Tommy Lee's book?
What's that?
Did you read Tommy Lee's book?
No, I didn't.
So if you read Tommy Lee's book, he's got different fonts. So Tommy Lee tells a story in his font. The person that was involved with the story tells the same story in their font. And
That's
then
cool.
The third font is his penis's version of the story.
Of course it is. Shocking.
Come on, did you see it?
Who didn't?
It's
hanging out on Twitter forever.
So we would have to write a book where like all of us got our own font. Right. Because there's no way we all remember some of the stuff the same.
No, definitely.
Or at all, depending on who you're talking to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Like, hey, bud, do you remember? Nope.
Heinz wants to know what your favorite AAF memory is.
Oh, God.
Can you even nail one? Because it's really hard for me to nail one down.
No, I definitely can't. And it's like everything is such a, like, there's so many specific moments that I can think of, but also in the same sense, it's kind of a blur because it's just like, there was just so much stuff that we did and we were involved in and between like charity events and concerts and in-studio things and just like, I don't know, it's all like one big mush.
Yeah.
But people will bring up specific incidents to me and they'll be like, hey, do you remember this? Or do you remember that? Or this
Sometimes it takes other people reminding me of what we did. And I'm like, am I losing it? But it was like being in the middle of an F5 tornado all the time, that there was just constantly stuff going on.
Always. People
running down the hall, yelling, screaming, get that person in here, sending somebody out to the store. I got woken up one morning. Yeah, where's LB? I got woken up by a text one morning by Mike Shue at like 6:30 in the morning. And it was no context, right? So obviously.
Deadpan, dry as shit.
And he's like, hey, do you have any flavored lube in your office? That's the text. Yep. That was normal.
Totally normal.
I was just like, oh, it must be Tuesday. And I was like, I think so. Like, then I was like afraid to ask what it was for. And they were doing some tasting thing with like Guy Fieri or something.
Guy Fieri.
Yeah.
They made Spaz have strawberry lube's grilled cheese sandwich.
Yeah. Well, the lube came from my office, I think. So.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's like, you know, the weird like little texty memory things and the questions about stuff and like where did this come from and like you look at like all the searches that we had to do, like, you know, under the guise of show prep, like I would and I brought this up on the air last week too.
What are you doing? Show prep.
I'm like, do you know how much porn is in my show prep? Like, and like things that I'm like, should I, like stuff even for legit stories that I'd be like, I don't know if I'm comfortable looking this up because I don't know what's going to come back.
Look, the Pam and Tommy video, when that leaked online,
yeah,
we were like, we're watching porn in the studio because we have to be able to talk about it.
Exactly.
It's work.
It's work. But I would routinely follow up a Google search for something like really inappropriate with, I'm doing this because it's in the news and I work for a radio station. So if they ever had to populate my searches, it would be like, oh, okay, now we get it.
Now we're all getting arrested. If they populated all of our searches, we're all getting arrested.
It's like, hey, you can't do that. I'm like, God bless Sid, one of our engineers. Like anytime he'd be like, my laptop died. I need a new one. Please don't look at the search history. And he'd just be like, it's okay. I know.
Yeah. This is what we do. I guarantee you that we were the ones they expected that from, but I guarantee you that the other radio stations were looking at the same shit. It was just expected from us.
Right. Yeah. Like meanwhile, you know, RKO's banging out some weird stuff down the hall. It's like, what?
Jeff says Danielle's LB spoof, Baby It's Cold Outside, classic.
I had so much fun with that.
Aunt Kathy says Kathy. Let's see. This is Sisterhood in the War Room. Exactly that. I mean, there's no way you could go through all the years and all the stuff that we did, the highs and the lows, and not feel like family. And even when you weren't getting along, even when you were working with people that would piss you off, it was always one of those things like, look, I'm really mad at my brother right now, but only I get to motherfuck him. And if you motherfuck him, I'm going to punch you in the parking lot.
Right. Well, that was such a big dynamic with me and LB because he and I would bicker constantly on the air and people would be like, oh, you fucking bitch, fucking, you're shitting on LB. And I'm like, dude, like we're literally looking at each other and laughing while we're doing this, like under our breath, like calm down. Or like, Greg and I would make fun of each other for our weight or something like that. And they'd be like, someone would target me and be like, oh, you fat bitch. And I'm like, that's not how this works. Like, you made fun of Hillman. I'm like, yeah, because he and I have that kind of relationship, but I can poke fun at him. We're actually friends. I don't know you. Yeah. Random guy from Nashua. It's just like, so you had so much of that random stuff. But, at the end of the day, it was funny because I was thinking about this the other day. The most common question I used to get asked was, is Spaz really that much of an idiot?
Yes, the answer is yes.
The answer is yes, unequivocally. But he's a good dude and I love him. But now it's people are like, how's LB? And I'm like, honestly, he's doing great. I know. Like every time I talk to him, he sounds great. He's feeling better. He's crushing it. He's in such a much better place than he was when the station went away. So, and people love to hear that because, I was, when he had his walk-off moment on the air with Shu, I was getting my nails done and my phone starts blowing up and everybody's like, are you listening? And I'm like, it's the middle of the afternoon. Like I'm at a nail appointment. Wow, what's going on? They're like, what happened with LB? And I'm like, did he die? Like, freaking out. Like he just walked off the air with Shu and I'm like,
here we go.
What's going on with LB? And he's like, he just walked out of this. Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I just walked out of the studio. I have no idea. I'm like, okay.
I was in my office and I saw him walk out the door and I had the radio on and I was like, does Shu need me to come in there? Like, what is going on?
Like, do you need me to come in?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it is like Penny says, you guys are like siblings. It's exactly what we were. Yeah, like, exactly. And LB and I had a really candid conversation. He came on the podcast a while ago and we talked about stuff and I was like, I was like, look, it was hard for people like Mike Shu and I who were expected to like go to all of the shows, to take on all the responsibilities, to be sober and responsible. And like, while, that sounds like, oh yeah, that's tough. Like, we were always on call in case LB didn't show up for something. It was like, oh, make Carrie go and do it.
Right. So you always had to be ready.
Yeah. And, do our own job and do our own stuff. And there was animosity there. And like LB and I had a really great, frank conversation about it. And he was legitimately like, I'm really sorry that, same thing. I had a great conversation with Kevin Barbary too on the podcast, just about both of our perceptions about when he left the station and like what it was like for the people that were left behind. And like, that was always really hard.
Kev's such a talented individual and like he imparted so much color into the show by way of voices, bits, and just Kevin's one of the funniest people and most talented people I have ever met in my life to this day. Yeah. So like not, people and everyone, of course had their assumptions about this and that. And it's like, dude, like that was a big deal for us to not have him. And I think people always assume like, oh, if someone goes by the wayside, everybody's fine with it. And it's like, just because you don't go into it on the air or on social media doesn't mean you're not grieving the loss of like your friend being there every day working with you,
And sometimes you're being told, look, just don't talk about it.
Don't talk about it. You don't have a choice.
And you're under contract and you're not allowed. And it's like, okay, so am I going to follow this person out the door and lose my job too? Like, what am I supposed to do?
Right. And be in breach of contract.
Right. Which means that they can come back and financially make you suffer if they wanted to. So it just, there was always that behind the scenes stuff too that people didn't understand. And it's like, you want to share as much of it as you can, and you don't want to lie. You want to be candid because that's the whole point, is to be honest about everything. But at the same time, sometimes you just can't.
You look at other people's jobs, like not everybody can talk about what's going on behind the scenes at their job. It's just not interesting because it's not public. So no one's asking them.
Right.
When things change, in a job that's very front facing and public facing, it's like, okay, well, people want answers. And, when things happen in your life and the lives of people around you, People are like, how come you haven't tweeted about this? Why haven't you posted about this? It's like, just because I don't share something on social media doesn't mean that I'm not feeling anything about it, you know?
Well, not only that, but people's perception is that it only affects you. Oh, look at the kitten. And it's like everybody forgets that there's families attached to each one of us. We signed up to be behind the microphone. Our families didn't.
No.
So when you really do start talking about, you know, money stuff, family stuff, embarrassing stuff, ex-girlfriends, ex-husbands, like all of that kind of stuff, it affects more people than just you.
Right. And like that was always something, you know me, that I never really, you know, we joked about a couple of references here and there over the years, but like I never was public about my relationships. And, you know, I feel like there definitely was a difference in the way the audience would sometimes treat the guys, you know, talking about their wives versus me with whoever I was dating at the time. And I'm just like, you know, I'm not, like you just said, I signed up for this job. My significant other didn't. And like, I'm still to this day, you know, even though I'm not doing it full time, I'm like, you know, if I'm talking to somebody, I'm like, I'm not going to share you on social media unless it's like, you're really cool with it and we're really into it. And I'm not tagging you because as much as, you know, most of the people that we have in our circle that love us are so great and they're super respectful.
But there's always one.
There's always one or two that have a boundary issue that are going to be like, I'm going to find out everything about this guy that Danielle's dating. And like the last couple of guys that I dated, had serious relationships with, had kids. And I'm hyper protective about that kind of stuff. So I'm like, I'm not putting it out there. And it sucks that, you know, you want to share your life. You want to share those little intimate things and be like, oh, I'm dating a new person, or I met somebody, or I'm in a relationship, or I'm engaged, I'm married, like whatever it might be for your specific situation. But there's always a couple of people that just ruin it for everybody where you're like, I have to put this really protective high wall around me and not talk about this stuff.
Well, that was something that you and I always understood because none of the guys did, is that you and I both tried dating while working at WAF, which is not easy. Where the guys, no big deal.
No, but it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Dated, broke up, married, divorced, like it didn't matter. But you and I would sit there and commiserate, like in one of the studios, and be like, we're never, ever going to find anyone that can love us enough to handle this mess.
I have an ex from 15 years ago that will still periodically text about something I say on the radio. I'm like, but it's not about you. I love you to death. I talk to you once a year. None of this is about you. Yeah. Literally none of this. He's like, oh, what did you mean by that? I'm like, nothing. Not you. Nothing.
Melissa said people feel like they're extended family to you guys and they're invested in what's going on. Yeah. I mean, and that's what we want. But let me tell you, guys have a hard time taking all of this on.
Yeah.
Because they all of a sudden get and then they're at work and then guys that they work with are asking them about stuff and bringing up stuff that we've said on the radio 10 years before we even met them.
Right.
And it's like, oh, fuck.
That's great.
When I got married, I looked at my husband and I was like, okay, you sure you want all this, babe?
Why, honey?
And I joke with him that because he's a country music fan, like he's probably going to be stalking you more than he cares about the interviews and stuff that I'm doing. Because he'll probably want to talk about the music with you. But with me, it was like, I had to find somebody from out of state that was a country music fan.
Yeah. So that there was like no connection to anything that you did.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning of the pandemic, I had an almost year-long relationship, and it didn't work out for various life reasons, but we're still friends, and it was very amicable, and he's a wonderful, wonderful guy. I can't say enough about him. But I'm like, you have no frame of reference to experience like what it's like to be out with me and like go to events where people recognize me. And it was nice because it was perfect for the pandemic. We lived close. We got along really well. And it was like the perfect thing for like 2020 to 2021. But I'm like, and he would ask me periodically, he'd be like, do you get recognized? And I'm like, yeah, but because everything's shut down, you're never going to see it. And it's just a whole different thing when like, you know, you're at a show, like I'm at the Palladium, and I'm up in one of the, you know, John Peters puts me in one of the stage boxes on the right or the left.
Yeah, so
like,
you don't get
squashed. I'm So, I'm like, this is what it's like.
I'm so glad that you were always there for me to be able to relate to when it came to this stuff. Because trying to talk to like Shu or Greg or LB or Kevin or any of the guys about this kind of stuff, they'd be like,
oh, tough life.
Yeah. And you're just like, I'm never going to find a guy that loves me.
No, never.
Didn't you and I at one point, weren't we?
The text line would tell you that too.
Yeah.
Like, tell this barren bitch to shut up. I'm like,
Google I think you and I one night had a drunken conversation. We were like, if we both turn 50 and nobody loves us, we'll buy a house together.
Hey, I'm 5 years away from that. I might still be on that plan with one of my friends. Sure, he's out.
I'm so glad that you joined me on my 200th episode. It was so good to see you.
Same.
In our PJs.
I know, my little cat. And purple for you.
Well, if anybody's looking for you, if they want to help you rescue animals, if they want to circumvent the globe with you, if they want to listen to you on the radio, all your social media handles are at Danielle Murr, right? So they can find you everywhere.
Pretty much, like Danielle Murr or Danielle.Murr. So
yeah.
You can find me that way, but yeah.
Well,
here I am.
Can you like come in the war room for real next time?
Absolutely.
So we can get drunk and like be irresponsible together when you don't have to get up at 3:30 in the morning.
Twist my arm, bitch.
All right, I know you got to get up. You already got your PJs on. I do too, so I'm going to let you go to bed. I kept you way longer than I promised I would. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm so honored that I got to be here for the 200th episode. And to everyone out there, I love you guys and I miss you so much. Whether you're listening to me now or you're dropped off or like whatever the thing is, like I love hearing from you guys and like seeing all these beautiful comments and memories that you have. And like, trust me, like every single one of you, it sounds so cliche, but you all mean so much to me because I would never have had a career if it weren't for people loving me the way that you guys did. And I know Carrie feels the same way.
100%. Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, go to bed.
I will.
I finished my champagne and now I have to finish the show.
All right. I'm going to finish my Paloma.
Oh, be a bougie bitch. Put your pinky up.
I'm classy, bitch.
All right. Good night. We love you. Wednesday. Say good night to, come here. Say good night to Danielle. Say good night.
Bye.
All right. That's it. She's done. She's had enough of you.
She's like, where am I cooking?
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
I love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye. Wait, how do I do this? Where did she go? Are we good? Is she gone? Oh. Let's see. Mark says, bye, Danielle. Carol says, good night. Okay, drink. Michelle says, good night. We love you, says Tracy. We finally got her to have our PJ party. Danielle, you can track her down on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. If you're looking to maybe do some traveling, like, can you imagine wanting to travel with anybody else but Danielle? All right, we got to get to a bunch of stuff we got to do tonight. So one of the things that I did was, because I was drinking champagne tonight to celebrate the 200th episode, I decided to find a champagne cocktail tonight. And because it's kind of fall now with Labor Day, this is called the Apple Blow Fizz. I picked it for many, many reasons. It is, let's see, a half an ounce of apple schnapps, a half an ounce of cranberry juice, and champagne. Thought it was an interesting combo. Very fall. Pour the schnapps and juice into a champagne glass and stir. Fill with champagne. Stir again. And there's a bunch of different ways that you could garnish this. I was thinking of like an apple wedge rolled in cinnamon sugar, like stuck on the top. Obviously, the cinnamon sugar rim on the champagne flute kind of absolutely needs to happen. But, I mean, you could have apple pie ice cream. Brett says you two have to have your own podcast. That would be a blast. I should get her on the Mistress Carrie podcast just to do a full-length episode because there are a lot of stories that we have to talk about and things that we have to go on. Best war room yet, says Trina. Not another 200? Yeah, what do you mean? We're not going anywhere. Let's see. Freeze-dried apples would be delicious, or just like freeze-dried apples and then grated on the top so that they kind of rehydrated on the top. That would be delicious. But I thought that would be really good, not only for fall, but because it's episode 200 and we're sipping on champagne. All right, we got to talk about a bunch of other stuff because it's getting late. So want to remind you guys, the trip to Vegas happening at the end of the month. So there will be tons of stories. So don't forget about that. That's happening at the end of the month. And if you have not checked out the Party Like a Rockstar podcast with me and Carlotta, you can find that in the link of my blog, but it's Carlotta and I on the Party Like a Rockstar podcast, talking about a lot of radio stuff. She's a rock DJ on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. And so we had a great conversation. Now, we got to talk about last week's podcast episode. Episode 117 featured Michael Tunes and Tune from the John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band. And to be in his 80s, to still be playing the sax in a rock band, to still be playing with John Cafferty, and to still be the unbelievable guy that he is. If you haven't listened to episode 117 yet, he's just, Tunes is unbelievable, a total inspiration. And the fact that he's still doing it, they're going to be at Kowloon, actually, and it's a fundraiser. You can get all the details. It's later on this month. Get all the details in the event calendar at mistresscarrie.com. Bish says no pumpkin spice lattes in the war room. War room trip to Vegas. Not a war room trip. I'm going out to Vegas and I'm going to take you guys with me virtually, but I'm not going to do the war room from out there because it's already going to happen the night before. Let's see. Ray says, I used to listen to her on KOMP. Exactly. So that was why we got together and did that podcast together. Pumpkin beer is so good, says Jeff. Melissa says, yes, get Danielle on the podcast. Elsa says, I can't believe how many grandkids Tunes has. He's got great grandkids and he's still playing in a rock band. It's unbelievable. Brett says, you stiffed the new kids in the soundtrack. I know. I feel really bad. I did not add the new kids into the playlist for Tunes' episode 117. I forgot. I didn't do it on purpose. Do I really have to apologize to the new kids for omitting them from the playlist? I don't think so. Let's see. Bish says, put it all on red in Vegas. Tracy says the Sam Adams Oktoberfest is the shit. Let's see. All right. So I want to tell you guys who's going to be on this week's episode because I'm super excited about it. It's a band that I've had a different member on the podcast before, but even though he and I have met before and talked before, he's never been on the show before, and I am super excited to tell you guys. Episode 118 of the Mistress Carrie podcast features James Labrie from Dream Theater, the Grammy Award-winning vocalist extraordinaire who just released his 4th solo album earlier this year. Super excited that James wanted to come on the podcast. And if you're a Dream Theater fan, if you're a vocalist, if you are into songwriting, I asked him about a lot of stuff. I asked him about his influences, his songwriting process, how to keep his voice in tune and in check, and to be able to tour the way that Dream Theater does. We talked a lot about his drummer, Mike Mangini, who's already been on the show. We also talked about keeping a band together and a marriage together because he's another guest on the podcast who has been married for like over 30 years, which there are not that many of them in the music business. So obviously I had to talk to him about that as well. Let's see. Yeah, Joe, pull me under. Exactly. There's so much to talk to him about when it comes to Dream Theater. We talked about what it's like to actually win a Grammy and how you get the Grammy and what you do with the Grammy because they just won their first Grammy in 2021, Best Heavy Metal. Let's Go, Images and Words was way ahead of its time, says Travis. 100%. This is one of those bands that some people don't understand. They're like Rush, that they are just moving things forward trying difficult things. And a lot of times these bands, to the untrained ear, don't understand them. But if you're a musician and you listen to a Dream Theater record, there's so much going on. And if you are a musician, you're just in awe of their talent, the way that they're able to replicate what they do in the studio live, which is 100% different. You can do it in the studio and be able to put it together piece by piece, but to be able to get all of the members of Dream Theater to be able to pull that stuff off live night after night in different cities, it's unbelievable. Keith says, Carrie, you failed me. How did I fail you? Eric says, do a war room while on the Harley. Yeah, you won't be able to hear me if the bike is running. I can barely do anything with the pug, which, by the way, you guys need to see this. That's what's happening right now. She has decided that all of the energy that she burned off while I was talking to Danielle, she is now curled up in a giant pile of all of the toys that you guys have sent her. And this doesn't even scratch the surface of the stuff that you guys have sent in the last 200 episodes to the most spoiled dog in all of rock and roll. And if this doesn't exemplify everything that's happened in the last 200 episodes, I mean, seriously, look at her. As content as a pug can be, it's just insane. Can't even deal. Oh my God, that's adorable, says Mark. She misses Danielle's dog. Oh my God, Wednesday is sleeping. Let's see. She looks adorable. I see the dragon. Please give her a belly rub for me. Such a sleepy girl. Going to bed, family. Thomas, good night. I know I feel bad because Danielle and I were chit-chatting, so I want to run through a bunch of the other stuff that happened. But episode 118 of the Mistress Carrie podcast goes live at midnight tonight, and it features James Labrie from Dream Theater. Super excited about that. Don't forget, the sit rep happens every Monday through Friday. It takes about 5 minutes to run down all of your rock news, music headlines, and entertainment updates, and that's why you got to subscribe and follow the Mistress Carrie podcast so you don't miss anything. This is just a sample of the places that you can find the podcast. It's basically everywhere. Just search. When you find that logo, you know you're in the right spot. And not only will you get the sit rep, you'll get the full-length episodes, and you also get the after-action reports. So Danielle and I talking tonight will get put up as a bonus episode as an after-action report on the podcast as well for anybody that missed her in the war room. And we're holding strong at 130 countries and holding strong. Canada is number 2, the UK number 3, Russia at number 4, Singapore at number 5. And I'm going to make a prediction that James Labrie, because of the diehard Dream Theater fans, that these rankings and this number of how many countries are listening to the podcast, that this is going to change by the time we meet back here in the war room, because I think episode 118 is going to change all of that. Let's talk about some of the headlines that we got in music. I want to remind you guys about the Trinity of Terror Tour, Ice Nine Kills, Motionless in White, and Black Veil Brides with Atreyu at the Tsongas on November 17th. Now that we're on the other side of Labor Day and we can start busting out all of the Halloween and horror themed stuff, want to remind you guys about that show coming up in just a few days. Yeah. It's happening on Friday. Robert Plant and Allison Krauss at the Leader Bank Pavilion. And on Saturday, they are at Foxwoods. Stevie Nicks is going to be at the Xfinity Center on September 19th. Those tickets are on sale now. The Red Hot Chili Peppers are going to be at Fenway, and their new album is coming out next month on October 14th. But they're going to be at Fenway coming up on the 10th. So just a few days away. Shinedown and Jelly Roll are next week on September 13th. Tickets are on sale right now. It's not sold out, but it's going to be damn close. And if you look at all of the stuff that Jelly Roll and Shinedown and John Harvey are sharing on social media, this is going to be a tour you don't want to miss. Alice in Chains, Breaking Benjamin, and Bush are finishing up their tour at the Xfinity Center coming up on October 8th. In this moment, Nothing More, the Cherry Bombs, and Sleep Token are going to be at the brand new MGM Music Hall at Fenway. That's coming up fast. All these September shows that we've been talking about for months, they're all happening one right after the other. So you got to keep your eye on the event calendar at mistresscarrie.com because that's where you're going to find them all. Aaron Lewis was at Indian Ranch over the weekend. That should have been removed because it already happened. So the last sip of my champagne. I did not bring the bottle at arm's reach because I have a late night radio show to do later and I can't be wasted for the late night radio show. So I'm practicing moderation. Stained is going to be at the Mass Mutual Center in Springfield coming up on the 11th. Tickets are still available for that one. Joe Satriani is going to be at the Orpheum November 5th. Five Finger Death Punch, Megadeth, The Who, and Fire from the Gods. They're going to be at the Xfinity Center coming up on the 18th. And Megadeth and The Who just released both of their new albums this past Friday. AWOL Nation will be at the House of Blues on October 23rd. And the new Slipknot album is just a few weeks away. The End So Far comes out on September 30th. Continuing on with the music headlines, there's a lot going on. Aerosmith sold out this Thursday night at Fenway with Extreme. And on Saturday, the Red Hot Chili Peppers are going to be at Fenway as well. Judas Priest's debut album came out on this date in history, if you can believe that. And Judas Priest are going to be with Queensryche at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway coming up next month on October 16th. Dio, the documentary Dreamers Never Die, is going to be in theaters for 2 days only on September 28th and October 2nd. And there are screenings nationwide. So you got to go to the website for the documentary and you can get your tickets. And we also found out Rob Zombie is going to be releasing The Munsters on September 27th on Netflix, which I cannot wait for. Speaking of being in the holiday spirit, Ghost, Mastodon, and Spirit Box. This show is coming up fast at the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence. Jeff Beck at the MGM Music Hall coming up October 6th. The new Clutch album is going to be out next week, next Friday on September 16th. Lamb of God, Killswitch Engage at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway coming up September 21st. And the new Ozzy and everything that's going on with Ozzy. He's got a new reality show on the BBC called Home to Roost. It's a 10-episode, 30 minutes per episode reality show with Jack and Kelly documenting the Osbournes' move back to the UK. Ozzy's going to be the halftime show at the Rams-Bills game on Thursday night to open up the NFL season. And then, of course, the new album comes out on Friday. So it's going to be a big week for Ozzy. He's even doing an old school record signing in California on Saturday. The Trans-Siberian Orchestra announced all of their tour dates. The dates all go on sale September 16th. There are going to be 2 shows at Mohegan on the 23rd of November, 2 shows at the SNHU Arena on the 25th, and 2 shows at the DCU Center in Worcester on the 26th. Those are matinee and evening shows, and all of the dates are up on the events calendar at mistresscarrie.com. New releases coming out this Friday. Let's see. Oh. The new releases didn't copy over. The Afghan Wigs is coming out. Ozzy's coming out. Oh my God, there's so much. This is all a typo. If you go to the show notes of the episodes of the Sit Rep, there's a link there with all of the new releases. For some reason, the new releases didn't copy over. Damn it. Let's see. Want to remind you guys, this is happening on Saturday, Rockfest at Indian Ranch. If you're a fan of Aerosmith, Bad Company, Pat Benatar, Lynyrd Skynyrd, and Foreigner, the area's best tribute bands are all going to be at Indian Ranch in Webster on Saturday, and you can win tickets all week long on 100 FM The Pike. We've got text keywords for you to win. And coming up at the Schubert on September 22nd, the Nick Mason Saucer Full of Secrets tour is happening at the Schubert, and you can win front row VIP upgrades. Pantheon Podcasts is giving away this VIP experience. You can go to pantheonpodcast.com or click the link in the newest episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast, and all of the details are right there. Mail call this week. I didn't get to go to the post office. I'm sorry. It's been crazy. And because of the holiday, I couldn't go yesterday and I couldn't go today. So we're going to have to catch up with mail call, but I did not get to go today. So if you sent something to the mail room, I'm really sorry. I hope everybody was able to get stocked up on your tank tops over the long Labor Day weekend. Tank tops are still in stock in every size, but some of the sizes I'm down to like one left because the Labor Day sale went so well. And by the way, if you bought a tank top this weekend, they're getting shipped out this week. So plenty of time for you to enjoy the warm weather while we still have it. But if you haven't gotten your Mistress Carrie tank top, you're running out of time because some of the sizes are going to be gone and we're not going to restock them until at least the spring. All right, if you're celebrating your birthday today, you share it with Roger Waters from Pink Floyd. You share it with William Duvall from Alice in Chains. And you also share it with the late, great Dolores O'Riordan from the Cranberries. So happy birthday to anybody celebrating their birthday today. And happy unbirthday, Keith. No post office. I know, Jonathan, I'm so sorry. Let's see. Want to remind you of the backstage passes. We got to get together. If you have a backstage pass, we got together this weekend and I overslept. And thankfully, the sleeping nugget over here, where is she? She's just curled up with her toys. Wednesday actually licked my face and woke me up and reminded me that we had a live stream with the backstage pass holders. So we get together once a month. If you have a Mistress Carrie backstage pass, we do a private live stream. You can also submit podcast interview questions. So if you have a backstage pass, you know who my guests are going to be coming up in the next few weeks. When I travel, like the trip to Vegas at the end of the month, if you have a backstage pass, I'm always blogging to keep you up to date on what's going on. You also get access to exclusive concert ticket giveaways. Right now, backstage pass holders have access to Lamb of God and Killswitch Engage tickets. You have access to Alice in Chains, Breaking Benjamin, and Bush tickets. You have access to I Prevail tickets. And you also have access to Shinedown and Jelly Roll tickets. So getting a backstage pass is always a good idea. And I want to remind you guys of all of the places that you can find me on social: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Cameo, YouTube, and of course, Patreon. And all of these are linked at mistresscarrie.com. Before we end the show, I just, hold on, I'll let you guys see Wednesday at the same time before we go, because she's so goddamn cute right now. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you guys for sitting in this room with me or coming out to the few times we've been able to take the show on the road. 200 episodes. It shocks me that it's been 200 episodes. We've gotten through so many things in 200 episodes. When I go back and look at all of the old episodes, because they're all archived on the website, it just shocks me how much we've dealt with, how much we've grown, how many things we've been able to weather, both the good and the bad, the good news, the celebrations, the sad news, the tears. Watching the Taylor Hawkins tribute over the weekend and seeing 75,000 people alongside the entire rock industry mourn the loss of someone like Taylor Hawkins. I remember us talking about him passing away here in the War Room when he died. And that's what we've been together, is this support group. And we've been able to talk about fond memories and share photos and just be able to kind of have each other's backs through everything. I don't know about you guys, but watching the Foo Fighters mourn Taylor Hawkins in such a public way, and watching Dave Grohl go through all of the stages of grief, and watching Wolfgang Van Halen do the solo to Hut for Teacher, and watching Dave Grohl play the drums with Rush, and watching Taylor Hawkins' son step into his dad's shoes and play drums for the Foos, it shows me that there's still so much happiness that can come out of so much sadness. And the fact that we've been able to ride through all of this stuff together. I don't know what I would have done without you guys in the last 2.5 years, in the last 200 episodes. You guys have gotten me through so much. Danielle and I barely scratched the surface of what it's been like for her and I the last 2.5 years. All the changes, all of the craziness, the lockdowns, the scared feelings, the celebrations, the fear of the unknown, cheering on the victories of successful new ventures. And we found a way to be able to do it constructively and supportively and positively together. And I can only tell you that there's only great things on the horizon, that there's so much that we're going to be able to accomplish together, and so much that, as the world continues to open up, as new opportunities continue to present themselves, events we're going to be able to schedule. You guys know just from a personal level how challenging things have been. And it's been hard. And one of the things I talked to the Backstage Pass holders about over the weekend is allowing myself to take a breath every now and again, and allowing myself to give myself a break. And so that's why I decided, my husband is coming up tomorrow night. I haven't seen him in a while. Really excited. He's going to be here for a while. I have a bunch of other friends that are coming in from out of town. There's going to be a bunch of us going to Shinedown together next week, which obviously is on a Tuesday night. And it wasn't possible for me to be able to pull off the War Room at the show without missing the performances of my friends that I want to see. I can't wait to see Jelly Roll in front of a crowd that big at the Xfinity Center. To see Shinedown in front of a crowd that big, to be able to take in and to be able to feel that pride that I have seeing my friends do so well. The last time they played the Xfinity Center, they were on a co-headlining tour with Godsmack. This time around, Shinedown is the headliner and it's their tour. And so to see them in such a large venue on their own solo tour, I made the decision that next week we're going to take the week off. The last time we took the week off of the War Room, we actually took it from when we did the first 80 episodes until the show became a weekly show. And I thought, you know what? This is the perfect time for me to take a week off, to be able to spend it with my friends and my husband, to be able to spend next Tuesday night with the guys from Shinedown, with Jelly Roll, to be able to accumulate all kinds of photos and amazing stories. And so that's why we're going to take a week off, and I will meet you guys back here in the War Room 2 weeks from tonight for episode 201. I asked the Backstage Pass holders what they thought about me moving the War Room to a Monday or moving it to Wednesday. And they said, you know what? Take a break, Carrie. Are you guys seeing her with the giant bunny head in her mouth right now? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. We're going to take a week off. We're going to come back in 2 weeks for episode 201. And I'm going to have amazing stories, amazing photos. And we're going to plot a course for the next 200 episodes. So, right, Wednesday? Right? Do you want to say thank you to everybody for all of the toys they've given you and all the treats that they send you? Can you even stand her right now? Ryan says, you deserve it. Can't wait to hear about the show. Tracy said, sounds good. Is she trying to hump the bunny? No, I think she just wants to eat its face. That's what she normally does. Lori says, hope your mom is doing well. You need to take care of yourself. Yeah, so that's one of the things. Oh, Wednesday, you're going to hang out with me? There you go. You sat perfectly in your spot. It's like you knew this was coming to an end and you wanted to, just this week's episode, not the show. And you wanted to show up for your close-up. I'm going to go visit my mom later this week with my husband because he wants to go and see her. So Mark says, Keith, no pants party in place of the War Room. Oh, my God. She is a spoiled dog, Eric. I agree. She is so spoiled. Carol says, good for you. Yeah, so Wednesday, happy Wednesday, woke up. Yeah, she's awake. She's here. So from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of this little fuzzy nugget's heart, thank you guys for the first 200 episodes. We'll see you guys back here in 2 weeks. Thank you for sharing your Tuesday nights with me. And what are you doing? Can I have your paw? Thank you. Aww. All right, guys. I love you. Thank you for everything. Wednesday, say thank you. Say thank you. Do you want to give everybody a virtual high five? Yeah, there it is. All right, guys. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Keep your eyes on the social media pages. And if you missed Danielle earlier, you can either rewatch this episode on YouTube or the interview will be up as an after action report this week on the Mistress Carrie podcast. Thank you guys for 200 amazing episodes. I'll see you in 2 weeks. You guys rock. Good night.